AITHA for exposing my wife's affair with my brother in front of our families. In the age of 35, Michael never thought his life would turn into a critical situation. He'd settling into a routine of work, family dinners, and the occasional weekend getaway. His wife named Laura. They'd met in college, fallen in love quickly, and married 2 years later. Their life together, though far from perfect, had always been a source of comfort. That was until the day Michael uncovered the shattering truth of Laura's betrayal. The morning started like any other. Michael left for work, kissed Laura goodbye, and was greeted by his younger brother Danny, who was staying with them for a few weeks. Danny, just 27, had always been a bit of a free spirit. He was the kind of guy who was spontaneous to the point of recklessness, but Michael had always admired him for his zest for life. It was an ordinary Tuesday, and Michael had planned to surprise Laura with a bouquet of her favorite flowers. He'd hoped to make up for missing their anniversary dinner due to a last-minute work crisis. He stopped by a local florist and picked out a vibrant arrangement of lilies and roses, envisioning her delighted smile when he walked through the door. Arriving home early, Michael noticed Danny's car in the driveway. He thought nothing of it at first. Danny often worked from home or took spontaneous days off. He unlocked the front door, carried the flowers inside, and called out, "Laura, I'm home." No answer. He walked into the living room, noticing the soft murmur of the television. The house was eerily quiet, and an unsettling feeling began to creep up his spine. He called out again, louder this time, but still no response. With growing concern, he headed towards their bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and through the crack, he saw something that froze him in his tracks. Laura and Danny were entangled on the bed, completely oblivious to Michael's presence. The sight was like a punch to the gut. He felt his world tilt as he struggled to process the scene before him. Laura's face, which he had always found so comforting, was now marked by a look of shock and guilt. Danny's face, typically so carefree, was now a mask of guilt and regret. Michael stood there, paralyzed, the flowers forgotten in his hand. The betrayal stung with a ferocity he had never known. "Michael, Laura started, but the words died on her lips as Michael's face went from shock to an unyielding resolve. Just don't, he said, his voice cold and trembling with barely contained rage. He turned and walked out of the room, Danny's hurried footsteps following him. Michael's mind raced as he made his way to the kitchen, trying to steady his breath. He grabbed his phone and dialed his parents. It took a few rings before his father answered, his voice laced with concern. "Dad, it's Michael. I need you and Mom to come over. Right now." "Is everything okay, son?" his father asked, the worry evident. "No, it's not okay. Just come over." After hanging up, Michael paced the kitchen, his thoughts spiraling. His anger was matched only by a deep sense of betrayal and hurt. He knew he needed to confront Laura and Danny, but he also felt an overwhelming need to seek support and clarity from his family. Within an hour, his parents arrived. His father, a tall man with a stern but kind demeanor, and his mother, a gentle woman with an intuitive sense of her children's emotions, walked into the house. Their expressions turned from confusion to concern as Michael led them to the living room. "Michael, what's going on?" his mother asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I found Laura and Danny together. They're having an affair," Michael said bluntly, his voice breaking. His parents exchanged horrified glances. "Oh my God," his mother whispered, sitting down heavily on the sofa. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely," Michael said. "I saw them with my own eyes." His father ran a hand through his hair, clearly at a loss. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Michael admitted. "But I can't just pretend this didn't happen. I'm thinking of confronting them. I need to tell everyone." His mother reached out to him, her eyes full of sympathy. "Honey, I know you're hurting, but is that the best way to handle this? It might make things worse." "I don't know if there's a good way to handle this," Michael said, his frustration palpable. "I need them to face the consequences of what they've done." His father nodded. "All right, we're here for you, whatever you decide." Michael spent the next few hours preparing himself for the confrontation. He rehearsed what he would say, trying to find the right balance between dignity and honesty. The idea of confronting Laura and Danny in front of their families was daunting, but he felt it was the only way to ensure that everyone knew the truth. By late afternoon, he had gathered both sets of parents and Laura's closest friends. He felt an odd sense of detachment as he prepared for the inevitable fallout. When everyone had arrived, he gathered them in the living room, his heart pounding in his chest. "Thank you all for coming," Michael began, his voice steady but strained. "I've called you here because I need to share something with you. Something difficult." Laura entered the room, her face pale and drawn, followed by Danny. The tension was palpable. Michael looked at them, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and anger. "I found Laura and Danny together this morning," Michael said, his voice rising with emotion. "They've been having an affair." Gasps and murmurs erupted from the assembled group. Laura's eyes filled with tears, and Danny's face flushed with shame. Michael's parents looked at him with pained expressions, while Laura's friends struggled to process the news. "What's going on?" Laura's best friend, Emily, asked, her voice trembling. "Laura, is this true?" Laura could only nod, her face buried in her hands. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Danny tried to speak, but was cut off by Michael. "You don't get to explain yourself right now," Michael said. "I need everyone to know what's happened. I can't pretend this isn't real." The room fell into a heavy silence. Michael's father cleared his throat and spoke gently. "Michael, this is a lot for everyone. Maybe we should take some time to process this. Michael nodded, feeling the weight of his actions. The room was filled with tension as everyone absorbed the gravity of the situation. Michael's mother put a comforting hand on his shoulder, while his father spoke quietly to Danny and Laura, offering them a chance to leave if they needed space. In the days that followed, Michael wrestled with his decision. He faced the fallout from his actions, dealing with both his own feelings and the reactions of those around him. Some people understood his need to expose the truth, while others criticized him for the public spectacle. Michael found solace in the support of his parents and close friends, who helped him navigate the emotional turbulence. Laura and Danny eventually left, their relationship irreparably damaged. Michael faced the challenge of rebuilding his life and coming to terms with the betrayal. It was a long and painful process, but he found strength in the support of his family and friends. As time went on, Michael began to heal. He learned that sometimes the truth, no matter how painful, was necessary for closure and growth. While the road ahead was still uncertain, he knew that he had faced the truth head-on and found a way to move forward. In the end, Michael realized that exposing the affair, though painful and divisive, had been a step towards reclaiming his own life and moving towards a future defined by honesty and self-respect. The shattered reflections of his past would always be a part of him, but he was determined to build a future grounded in truth and resilience.